Top 10 most disappointing movies I've ever seen. All 10 of these movies broke my heart, pissed me off, and left me wanting my money back. I've wanted to make this video for a very long time. Really, this kind of idea started rolling through my head with 3 movies that made my brother Caleb not want to go to the movies with me anymore, or at least not let me pick the movie anymore. And way back then, like, I thought, you know what, if I had a YouTube channel, that'd be a perfect video topic. And then when I saw The Last Jedi, I thought of it again, and I'm like, I gotta do that list of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen in theaters. The movies that just had my expectations through the roof and completely dropped them on the floor, just shattering all my hopes for the story. But anyway, should I just get into the list and shut the fuck up? Yeah, I should shut up. Number 10 is Alien Covenant. Alien Covenant, it was the sequel to Prometheus, which was a prequel to Alien. And everybody was like, that movie, Prometheus, like, that movie sucked. But I liked it. I thought it had like a bunch of potential, almost like The Force Awakens, that it set up a bunch of stuff, and it was going to rely on the sequel to make it all worth it. And then you got the sequel, which was Alien Covenant, and it just was stupid. The movie is just all over the place. I hated almost everything about that movie. And I mean, it just drops all the good stuff from Prometheus, just gone, and trades it out for like a crappy version of Alien. The robot who I thought was interesting in Prometheus just starts quoting, you know, the Breaking Bad Ozymandias poem, like just dumb stuff. It was dumb. Number 9 is The Soloist. The Soloist was a movie with Jamie Foxx and Robert Downey Jr. It was about a columnist played by Robert Downey Jr., who finds this guy, like, homeless man on the street who's had a rough life, seems mentally impaired, but happens to be a fabulous musician. Motherfucker, Liam, just... The movie looked so heartfelt, so good, and I went to see it, and it was none of those things. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't heartfelt. It was nothing. It was just, I remember being bored and out of my mind and so disappointed. It was terrible. Number 8 is Saving Mr. Banks. Saving Mr. Banks is one of the 3 movies that made my brother, Caleb, not wanna let me pick the movie at the movie theater anymore. Tom Hanks played Walt Disney, and I can't remember the actress's name, who played the person who wrote Mary Poppins, right? Mary Poppins? You remember that movie, right?
Yeah.
It was terrible, right?
It was like 3 hours
It was
long, and it sucked. It sucked.
Continue.
It literally was like 3 hours long.
I don't think it was 3 hours long, but it sure as shit felt like 3 hours long.
It went so slow. Like in the middle of the movie, I was just completely lost.
Molasses.
In
What?
the middle of the movie, I was just completely lost. I was like, what are they even talking about?
I don't know. I thought it was gonna be about, like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of the Steve Jobs movie. They focus on 3, literally like 45 minutes before 3 different major product launches that Steve Jobs did, and everything that was happening leading up to him going on stage. And it was just such a laser focus and told you so much about his character just by telling the story of these 3 points in his life. It was so interesting. And I thought that's what it was gonna be about, like this, you know, this kind of window into, you know, Walt Disney and the story of Mary Poppins and just this great making of. There was one good scene in that movie. The one good scene was when he talks about having a paper route. You remember that? That was a good scene, but it is literally the only good moment I remember from the movie. It was painfully slow, painfully boring, and just a major letdown. You guys were like running around the theater, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the only 3 in the theater. It was just, oh man, it was bad.
After that, me and Caleb were like...
You guys didn't want to let me pick the movie anymore.
Yeah, we were like, Brandon, you are never going to pick the movie ever again.
That wasn't the one that actually broke the camel's, that wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back though. That was number 4, which we're gonna get to. Number 7 is Transformers 2. You guys remember Transformers? Those terrible movies? Well, way back when Transformers 1 came out, I maintain that is a good movie. It is a movie that pretty much only appeals to boys from about ages 12 to 16, but that was the age that I saw it. I enjoyed it. I remember loving that movie. just thinking it was so friggin' cool, funny, action-packed, the hot girl in it. It was great. And then I remember I went to the theater, sat down to watch Transformers 2, and I remember looking up at the screen like, what the fuck is happening? This is terrible. The racist jokes, the Transformer with a ball sack. You remember that? I am directly under enemy scrotum. Like, what was that? That was just awful. Moving on. 6. Rush Hour 3. Rush Hour 1 and 2 are both fun comedies. They're great. And I remember, man, I was so pumped for Rush Hour 3. Me and my best friend at the time went to see it. And I just remember sitting in the theater again, looking at up at the screen like, what is happening? How is this so bad? This isn't funny. It's not as good. These jokes suck. What happened?
Remember how it starts?
No, how's it start?
It starts with Chris Tucker dancing in the streets.
That part was funny. There's funny parts, but Rush Hour 1 and 2 were funny from beginning to end.
That's how I dream. He's like spinning. Do me, baby.
Oh no, he's singing Prince. Yeah, Do Me Baby.
Never done before.
Do me, baby. Yeah.
That was funny. That was like the one funny scene. Everything else was like, that was weird jokes. That was just like bad jokes.
There was funny parts. It just like it's not as good, right? Am I wrong? It's not as good as the first two.
It's not as good. It's not as good as the second one. The second one was
Is the best one, yeah. It's like a boring story.
Yeah.
It's not even like it's just dumb. All right,
I think it's
moving.
too serious. Almost like too serious.
I don't know, man. Number 5, now we're getting into the meat of it. These are the ones that really broke my fucking heart. Number 5 is Man of Steel. I don't want to talk too much about this one because I already did a review of this, which I'll link up somewhere around like here. This was the first movie out of the 3 that made my brother not want to let me pick the movie anymore. And man, I just remember me and Caleb sitting there like, should we leave? Should we go? Like, what is this?
Like,
Should we leave?
In a movie theater,
That movie was so bad I walked out of the theater with a headache. That's when you know you really, when you're like your brain hurts. Like it was so bad that you have a headache.
Sometimes when I like leave the theater because I feel like this is so bad, I just want to get out. I feel like some people are watching me in there and they're just seeing all the people freaking walk out and they're like, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. Number 4. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. This was the one that when me and my brother got home, he was like, fuck you, dude. You are never picking the movie again. He didn't say that, but he said something along those lines. Transcendence was directed by Christopher Nolan's cinematographer. It looked so good. Watch the trailer for this movie. It looks like it will be one of the most epic movies you've ever seen. Johnny Depp, Morgan Freeman. I mean, it looked like it had everything going for it. It was me, Caleb, Leah. Did you go? Transcendence with Johnny Depp?
I don't think so.
We just sat there like this, like both nodding our heads. And again, me and Leah looked at each other at one point and I was like, what should we do? Should we go? Like, should we stay? And she's like, I mean, I'd sit here for the rest of it. And I was like, okay, like, well, just in case, you know, it saved itself at the end, or you know what I mean? Like, I always think, like, just stick with it. Just stay with it. Maybe it'll have an ending that redeems itself.
With me, 65% into the movie, if I don't like it, have no interest in it, I'm out. Like,
I could see that, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
once it
I
gets
see
to
that.
There, I think once it gets to there, there's no saving it.
You're right. You can tell. I read some famous screenwriter said that you can tell instinctively if you like a movie about 5 minutes in. Like, you know what you think of that movie only a couple minutes in. You know what I mean? Just by the way it starts. And man, that movie, that is not just one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen. That was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I think you told me about this, and
It was, yeah, go ahead.
I was like disappointed. I'm like, what? Morgan Freeman and Johnny Depp were in there, and it still wasn't good.
It was one of those movies where I just kept fucking rewatching the trailer on my phone over and over and over and over again, like, oh my god, this looks so good. And then it was just so disappointing. Number 3, The Last Jedi. I didn't put this one higher, even though it was the movie that really made me want to make this list. I didn't put it higher because deep down, I knew this movie was gonna disappoint me because fans had just blown expectations so high. They had set the bar so high with all their fan theories that it was like, no way, they're not gonna be able to meet that bar. And you know what? I remember way back, the first time I saw The Force Awakens, sitting in the theater, the movie ended, everybody turns to each other and starts talking. She's Luke's daughter, right? She's gotta be Luke's daughter. And then it's like so many people say it, you're like, yeah, definitely, gotta be. No way it couldn't be. But I remember thinking, really? You thought that's Luke's daughter? I didn't get that. Like, if that's Luke's daughter, why would he leave her? And if she was part of the Jedi Academy and he had to leave her at that point, like how? Like she's right around Kylo Ren's age. Like, how would that be his daughter? And then the Obi-Wan thing, I'm like, no. And then the Emperor Palpatine thing, like, I'm like, that seems like something they put in the cartoon or the books. That doesn't seem like the movie. All these fan theories. I just remember thinking, like, just in the back of my head, like, you know, maybe The Force Awakens really was just the perfect setup to what's going to be what the original Star Wars trilogy was to that generation. Maybe this really is going to be, to my generation, that movie. The movie that 30 years from now, I'm gonna be telling my kids or grandkids or whatever, you have to see this movie. This is the movie that defined my generation. But you know, like I said, in the back of my head, I always thought, like, what's more likely? Did John Williams really try to make the music seem like the Darth Plagueis music? Or was he just kind of phoning it in? You know, like, do you really think that they put that much thought and effort into it? Or is this just a Disney movie? You know what I mean? Like, what was more likely? I wanted to believe that they were really putting that much thought and effort into it. But I always knew deep down, like, this is just a Disney movie. And I went to see The Last Jedi, and man, it was top 3 most disappointing theater experiences ever. I remember just sitting there, just the air getting sucked out of the room in the first 2 minutes, and me just sitting there like what are they thinking? What are they doing? Why? All right, let's just deal with the pain later. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2, The Dark Knight Rises. So, this movie I got over, and I learned to love this movie.
Yeah, but to say
I really did learn to love it. I learned to look past the plot holes, kind of fill in some that I really think like actually did make sense after I thought about it. And like I said, I came to love it. So, I mean, I went to this movie, we made reserved seat posters, we did all kinds of dumb shit, made shirts, we were so pumped. The Dark Knight was my favorite movie of all time. Desert Island Situation, World's Ending, you gotta save one movie. There's 3 movies that I would look at, like, which one do I take, which one do I take, which one do I take? And The Dark Knight is one of them. It was my favorite movie, I obsessed over it, and when I went into The Dark Knight Rises, when I heard it was gonna be made, I was like, no way they'll be able to outdo what he did with The Dark Knight. That is the Citizen Kane of superhero movies. Then I saw the trailer and I was like, he might do it again, he might. And I really thought he was at least going to make something that would satisfy me. And I remember just this heavy feeling in my chest right as it began. Like the opening 5 to 10 seconds with Jim Gordon talking. I was like, I don't know about that. What was that? And then it moves on and like, it was like just so many little moments where I was like, what? Why? I remember going home and Caleb being so happy, and it was one of those situations where I just had to nod like, yeah, that was awesome, yeah. And I just wanted to cry. So I remember I came home, we had seen a triple feature. It was in the theater, Batman Begins, then The Dark Knight, and then the premiere of The Dark Knight Rises. We were so pumped, And I got home, and Caleb's just praising it. Oh my God, it was so good. It was so good. And my mom, Caleb walked out of the room, and my mom was like, so it was good? I like looked over my shoulder to make sure Caleb wasn't listening, and I was like, it was fucking terrible. It was so heartbreaking. And I had gone a record amount of times to see The Dark Knight. It was like 8 times. I only went to see The Dark Knight Rises like 3, which is still probably more than most people go, but I was just so disappointed. I thought, like I always compare The Dark Knight to Citizen Kane. I thought at least it would be compared to like Magnificent Ambers, which is another movie by Orson Welles, which many people argue is just as good, if not better than Citizen Kane, arguably. And I would have been okay with that if it was arguably as good as The Dark Knight. And like I said, I came to love it, but at the time it was very disappointing. You ready for number 1?
Yes.
Are you ready for number 1?
No.
Motherfucker. Number 1, most disappointing movie I ever saw in theaters was X-Men 3. This movie was the movie that taught me you can't trust the trailers. You cannot expect, because the previous movies were good, that the future ones will be good too. X-Men, I remember, just surprised me. It was one of the first superhero movies, that and Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man that I saw, the first like real superhero movies that I saw, and of course got me hooked on all the toys and everything. And then I remember X-Men 2 just blew me out of the water. That was the first movie that I went to see over and over and over again. I think I went to see it 6 times in theaters. I mean, just amazed me. It was at the time my favorite movie. And it's not anymore because, again, so much of that movie relies on the next movie to come. The ending is kind of a cliffhanger. They leave you certain things open for speculation, and then when the next movie came, it was a complete and utter letdown. And like I said, of all these other movies that I've had on the list, up to that point, I had never, ever seen a movie that had disappointed me like that. I had always gone to a movie as a kid, or however old I was by the time X-Men 3 came out, and at least been entertained. And I remember X-Men 3, just this weird feeling of like, this is not what I came for. This is not what I paid to see. This is not what I waited and expected. This is not what they told me I was going to get. It just broke my heart. And I really, after that, like that was like my movie theater coming of age experience. Like I always knew after that you have to at least kind of expect to be disappointed, because number 1, the trailers lie. And number 2, like I said, it doesn't matter how good the past ones were. They can fuck anything up. They can just fuck anything up. Especially the movies that leave you thinking what's to come must be awesome. You're probably always gonna be let down.
Good, everybody. Shut up. I'm not gonna do this again. That was my list of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen in a movie theater. That felt good. Felt good to get that off my chest. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my terrible theater experiences. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to share it with someone else who might like it. And as always, if you'd like to see more movie rants, be sure to subscribe for more. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Bye-bye. Adios.
I just...
Do me, baby. And like the start at the bed, and then he's like, huh? no.
Come on, do it, please.
Okay. He's like moving traffic, and he's singing the song at the same time, and at the end, he's like, woo! And he's like singing high in it, and then cars crash, and he's like, woo! What the hell? I didn't tell you to go!
Just do the, do me, baby. Just do it.
Do me, baby. Like you never done before.
Do it.
No.
Do it.
No.
Come on, do it.
No. You do it.
I don't want to do it in front of camera. Fuck that.
Fuck yeah.
People see this shit.
fans that got the shirts. I'm not sure what the hell he's getting.
Get the fuck off, man. All right, look at how excited we were for this movie, me and my brother. Look at, we made these. Can you see this? Look at this, look at this. I did the poster, and then the fucking, oh yeah, these are old. These are when I was like a kid. Look at how skinny I was. Look at, wrote my name at the bottom. Look at that shit. Look at that. Mm-hmm.
Can I try this?
Sure, you can try it, and look at the back.
Oh, begins, falls, rise. What?
Begins, falls, rises.
Oh, okay.
It was like one of the, like, for the trilogy. You know what I mean? Here, hold that one. And then look at this one.
Where the fall begins on.
Rises with the one of the Batman
That was
posters.
Caleb.
There's
That
my
was
signature
Caleb.
down at the bottom.
That was Caleb.
And then let the games begin.
This look like it totally fit me. But
You
I
can-
can't.
Try it on.
No, it's not gonna fit me. Look how tall it is.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Okay. I feel like I didn't say enough about X-Men 3. I don't think I described enough like how heartbroken I was at that time. Like I said, I had never seen, I didn't know it was possible to be so disappointed and so let down. I didn't even know they could do that. I didn't know it was possible to fuck up that bad in a movie. I guess I just always assumed, especially when the previous movies were of such high quality, that there was just like a ranking of, or just, you know, a group of people who, you know, made the movies who were just like, no. You know what I mean? Like, the movie had to get past certain people that just would never let you actually fuck up horribly. But there's not. There really isn't. Like, it's human error just takes control and fucks these movies up. But I didn't know that at the time. I really didn't know you could screw up a movie so bad. Yeah, that was just terrible.
My brother is pretending. Come here. This thing that I used to like shoot dust off my lens was like a boom, and he was like screaming. Whoops. Before the cat gets it. Where was I?
What? So you wanna fall in love tonight? Don't you wanna?
I don't know how he made a voice like that.
He does all sorts of weird voices. It's funny. I like artists like that. Like him, Steven Tyler, they like change their voice. It's cool. Say goodbye, Lum.
Bye.